CBS has decided to part ways with its senior counsel. In fact, this is executive counsel who formerly worked at CBS and was promptly fired after she shared her opinion in regard to the shooting that took place in Las Vegas. Hayley Geftman-Gold is her name, and she had been with CBS for a little under a year. Apparently, she felt the need to share her opinions about the victims of this mass shooting and essentially said that she didn't really care for them. Let me give you her exact statement. She said, "If they wouldn't do anything when children were murdered, I have no hope that Repugs will ever do the right thing. I'm actually not even sympathetic because country music fans are often Republican gun toters." So the first part of her statement is something that we have heard a number of people say. We've even made that argument using different words. But the second part of her statement is what got her in trouble, showing that she has no sympathy because these are country music goers who probably support no gun legislation. It's not good. So they fired her immediately, and here are some screenshots of what her posts look like. And then here is a statement from CBS. A spokesperson said the following: "This individual, who was with us for approximately 1 year, violated the standards of our company and is no longer an employee of CBS. Her views as expressed on social media are deeply unacceptable to all of us at CBS. Our hearts go out to the victims in Las Vegas and their families."
I have a mixed reaction to this story, and I'll tell you why. Because did she say the right thing? Of course not. And you don't know first of all, you don't know the politics of those people. Second of all, it doesn't matter what their politics is. You should have sympathy for anyone who's a victim. So that's not debatable. That's not an interesting conversation. And I understand that CBS had to do what they did because her comments were too over the top. And I'll apply the same standard for right-wingers as this person who is clearly on the left. Which is, hey, Facebook is public. As a person who has a job that's somewhat public facing, she's not a government official or anything like that, but you should think that through and know that your company's probably gonna have to do something if you say something that outrageous. The only reason why I have any mixed feelings is that Republicans do this all the time, and they do it systematically, and their actions are so much worse than her words. So Republicans make sure that we don't have any gun control. Early in the year, they took away legislation that would prevent people who are mentally ill from getting guns. These people are so mentally ill, the government has adjudicated, and their family, friends, everybody agrees that they can't get a Social Security check. They can't be trusted with their own money. But the Republicans said, let's just give them guns. It's okay to give them guns. They can't have $1, but they can have guns. They think that people on the terrorist watch list should be able to buy guns. Why? Because they get paid by the NRA. So their actions in allowing this country to be awash with weaponry. I mean, the guy in Vegas had this thing that for $99 you could buy that allows you to fire your weapon automatically with hundreds of bullets at a time, okay? That's legal. That's legal. Why? Because people who are atrocious corporate shills for the NRA, including some Democrats, allow that, and then we die. So I find their actions to be far more deplorable than what she said. Now, I understand why CBS did what they did, but there's always a panic, like you have to bend over backwards for Republicans. If a liberal ever says anything wrong, gone instantly. No one ever defends her, and we're done with it. And her career is done, and she has no allies whatsoever. Republicans do outrageous things, say outrageous things, they get elected president. Everybody has the entire Republican Party has their back, and they never back down. So
yeah, look, I agree with you 100% when it comes to the questionable policies that those on the right continuously support, and how any type of aggressive criticism of those who support more abilities to buy guns, those people deserve to get criticized. There's no question about it. But at the same time, and I think we both agree on this as well, look, you're part of the left. I'm guessing she identifies as a Democrat, considering the way she referred to Republicans. And as a Democrat, you're supposed to be an individual who supports and really values tolerance. And so these are victims. These are people that were gunned down. You don't know what their political identity is. Just because they're at a country music festival doesn't mean that they're 100% Republicans. Just because they're Republicans doesn't mean that they support, any type of legislation that would make it easier to obtain guns. So she just completely generalized about those people. And besides which, doesn't matter. Even if they have or hold those political beliefs, you don't act as if shooting and killing them isn't that big of a deal. Who cares? I have no sympathy. It's just not the right thing to say. And it goes beyond being offensive. It shows a certain level of heartlessness that is I wouldn't want to work with her. I wouldn't want to be, sitting beside her while she makes those types of statements, and I wouldn't defend her.
So, I don't know. Look, whenever a liberal says, and that was one wrong sentence, the world comes down on them, including us. And I said it, Anna said it, rightfully so, right? One wrong sentence and you're eliminated forever. Kurt Schilling can say anything he wants. The Republicans support him forever. He's a lunatic who used to be a Red Sox player. I don't know why I picked him out. Sheriff David Clark. I can name you 1,000 examples. Donald Trump. They could grab women. They could do anything. They could take actions, and there's never any consequences. So what I'm tired of is the uneven playing field. So half of her statement is absolutely right. If they wouldn't do anything when children were murdered, I have no hope that Republicans will ever do the right thing. That is absolutely right. That is not what I'm criticizing her for, okay? So an uneven playing field where if the left goes outside of the lines for one sentence, eliminated forever, okay? The right wing have no lines, have no barrel, and you know what that winds up doing? It winds up dragging the entire political spectrum in Washington, not the country, but in Washington to the right.
You're right about that.
And so I'm sick of the double standard.
No,
so next time any Republican says any wrong sentence, I hope that the right wingers who are outraged by this story will join us in saying they should immediately be fired. Immediately fired, right? Right? Wait. Anna, I thought they were for freedom of speech.
I know.
I thought if they're loathsome pricks on the right wing were getting paid $20,000 a speech, that they have every right to it. Right, freedom of speech. Doesn't she have a freedom of speech? Oh, you don't care about her freedom of speech. That's interesting. So we have principles that are consistent. You shouldn't say that. Of course, CBS has a right to terminate you if you go cross the line like that. So right wingers, on the other hand, have no principles, have no consistency. And they will turn around tomorrow and say things way worse than this. And if you even criticize them, you use your speech to criticize them, they'll turn into special little snowflakes who will say, oh my God, I'm being attacked. Where's my freedom of speech? So let's just keep it real. That's the state of affairs in America. If you like the Young Turks, you'll love Young Turks membership. TYTnetwork.com/join.